Welcome to Voices of the Community, which explores critical issues facing Northern California communities. We introduce you to the voices of community thought leaders and change makers who are working on solutions that face our fellow individual community members, neighborhoods, cities, and our region. This is George Koster, your host. This episode is part of our series exploring COVID-19's impact on nonprofits and small businesses in the San Francisco Bay Area. Back in April of 2020, when we decided to create this ongoing series on COVID-19's impact, first on nonprofits and then on small businesses in the San Francisco Bay Area, we, like you, had no idea how long the pandemic would go on and what the health and economic impact would be in our community. With vaccinations increasing, COVID-19 cases and deaths decreasing, we're now moving into the summer of 2021 with the reopening of the economy and all of the uncertainty of our ever-changing indoor and outdoor, vaccinated and unvaccinated protocols, and the politics that will drive how we all come back together as a unified or fractured community. We will continue to shine a spotlight on the nonprofits and small businesses that make up the fabric of our community, along with the founders and staff who are struggling to deal with the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic on their operations, services, and sustainability until we can all get to the other side of the pandemic. Along the way, we will also share with you all the amazing solutions that our nonprofits, small businesses, foundations, and government leaders are working on to help us all get to the other side of the pandemic and come together to rebuild our communities with more economic, social, and environmental equality.
The biggest value add that we offer and that we've been able to give San Francisco is to ensure that low-income families, elderly, and the disabled populations, that they can stay in their home, that something like a plumbing issue or needing to replace a door or needing to have a chairlift doesn't stop them from being able to stay in their home. It is preserving housing in its best form. And it's also a form of anti-displacement. There is no secret that there is a lot of gentrification happening, and there are measures around anti-displacement of longtime San Franciscans. And we feel that our work helps to preserve their space and their being and their belonging in San Francisco.
This is the Executive Director of Rebuilding Together San Francisco, Mahogany Roland. In this week's show, we continue our focus and theme on housing and share voices and solutions to our long-term housing issues. Mahogany shares with us their ongoing work to support our seniors and our disabled community members to stay in their homes. I'm joined remotely by Mahogany Roland, the Executive Director of Rebuilding Together San Francisco. Thanks for being here today, Mahogany.
Awesome. Thank you for having me. Happy to be here.
So could you please provide the audience just a quick overview of Rebuilding Together San Francisco and then some of your programs?
Yes. Thank you again. Happy to be here. I am with an organization called Rebuilding Together San Francisco, and our mission in the community is to repair homes, revitalize communities, and rebuild lives. And what that looks like on a daily basis is supporting low-income homeowners, primarily low-income families, disabled population, and also the elderly population with doing minor construction repairs in their home so that those families and folks can stay in their home. We also have National Rebuilding Month, which takes place in April, where we simultaneously work on 15 to 20 homes on a given day. It is the fourth Saturday in April, where we are doing construction repairs. And how we do that is we mobilize our volunteer network of over 200 skilled, passionate construction volunteers, contractors that are passionate about the community, that are doing upgrades and ADA modifications for families in San Francisco. We also have a She Builds program for women who are in the trades and interested in connecting with women in the trades. Our She Builds program focuses on safe and healthy housing, primarily for female-led households and for facilities that are centered around women and children. So again, we're focusing on 3 areas, mainly safe and healthy housing. We're focusing on ADA modifications, and we're focusing on women in households that are needing support to preserve their home and moving forward in their lives.
In Mahogany, so much of what you do, again, is in person. You're in people's homes, etc. How has COVID-19 impacted your operations, and what did you and your team do? And of course, how are you and your teams now starting to come back out of our pandemic into the magical reopening that everything is going to be better?
Yes, I call what we're in right now the new normal, and we're still figuring that out. However, back in March, when the whole country shut down, I remember that day like yesterday, our whole operation shut down fully for about 90 days. We were in the middle of safety modifications and ADA upgrades. We were not able to hold our National Rebuilding Month, the 4th Saturday in April. Everything was canceled. Everything kind of just shut down, and we were not able to be in homes. During that 90-day period before we got a soft green light to open from the San Francisco Public Health Department, we made a strong pivot. The things that we focused on were 2 things. We were still authorized to do emergency repairs, so still really focused on making sure people had hot water and heat, and that their doors, exits were safe to enter and to exit. We were able to do those 3 things upon emergency when our neighbors would call us or fill out a new application. The other piece that we did, besides focusing on emergency repairs, is we began doing wellness calls. Our organization has been in San Francisco going on 33 years. So we have served over 500 to 600 families, and we're still in contact with many of them. We have their information, and we were able to do wellness calls. And a wellness call entails, 1, just doing a call and saying, hello, how are you doing? Do you need to be connected to resources? Do you have any emergencies in your home that we can support you with? We did a great job with partnering with organizations like the Department of Aging, deepening our partnership with the San Francisco Department of Health. So we were part of that San Francisco hub of connecting people to different resources, whether it was grocery delivery, medical, or I would say pharmacy deliveries, and also supporting with emergency repairs. Wellness calls turned into a big part of our work. And then as kind of the 90 days was approaching, more like mid-July, we discovered that many of our vulnerable communities were hit pretty hard. And the number one thing we learned from that is everyone should be equipped in the event of an emergency. COVID just kind of arrived and happened to us. We didn't get to choose it. And one of the things we learned from that was all of our neighbors need to be prepared. That means having like a household emergency plan, having things in the house, pieces in the house in case you can't leave the house. So what came out of COVID for us that we learned is we now have a piece of our work that we offer, which is called a safety kit. And we've delivered actually over 100 since last July. I'm really excited about that. And those kits have been so helpful. It is a combination of earthquake safety, COVID prevention, and preparedness, in addition to giving people the tools to have like a household emergency plan in the event they can't leave or they need to exit very quickly. We've been able to pivot and add safety kits into our regular year-round programming, and it's been received very well. So the pandemic obviously taught us a lot. It shut down our operation for 90 days, but really what emerged from that for us was discovering that these wellness calls were vital during this time where our neighbors were sheltered in place, and that this emerging need or emerging service that happened, the safety kits, are so beneficial that now it has become a regular part of our work. We were able to softly kind of open up our operations in mid-July. And since that time, we've been slowly but surely getting up to our normal level of operation of 100%. And we actually have our build days scheduled for the end of July and for the end of September. So we're almost there, but kind of moving along. But if COVID taught us anything, I believe it's taught us, and particularly our organization, that we plan and want to be more helpful in the area of preparedness for our neighbors, especially our vulnerable ones.
How is the Rebuild Together San Francisco's team, your partners, your volunteers, how are you now working in the reopening component of the pandemic?
Yeah, so a lot of information has come out from local, regional, and kind of CDC guidelines. We have just begun allowing volunteers to come back and volunteer with us on a regular basis. All of our volunteers complete applications. They are signing agreements, and in those agreements entail how we're contact tracing. We're still protecting ourselves with masks, gloves, and sanitizer and social distancing. We have just begun to re-accept volunteers. Our office, like many offices back in March, have gone remote. We are still technically remote now with a planned reopening sometime in October, where we want to be back into the office part-time. And we will continue to just kind of monitor San Francisco. Right now, I believe is at herd immunity or pretty close to herd immunity. So we're going to continue to monitor and follow the local guidelines in terms of reopening. But we are accepting volunteers. We are having our build days, and we expect to have regular in-office hours sometime in October.
Over the 30 years of operation, what do you feel has been the biggest impact on San Francisco and its seniors, especially, and our community members with disabilities?
I think some of our biggest value adds, and I've been with the organization for almost close to 2 years. And from what I've gathered from the history and talking to people, and the biggest value add that we offer and that we've been able to give San Francisco is to ensure that low-income families, elderly, and the disabled populations, that they can stay in their home, that something like a plumbing issue or needing to replace a door or needing to have a chairlift doesn't stop them from being able to stay in their home. It is preserving housing in its best form. And it's also a form of anti-displacement. There is no secret that there is a lot of gentrification happening, and there are measures around anti-displacement of longtime San Franciscans. And we feel that our work helps to preserve their space and their being and their belonging in San Francisco. There's also another piece I think that's really important, especially targeted to our disabled and elderly population, around aging in place. And what that really means is just because you get older, just because you need a little more support, you should not have to leave your home. And our organization is dedicated to making sure that those particular populations don't have to leave their home because either they age or need additional support to get around the home. Those couple of areas are very important to us, and I believe that's our really big value add for the city.
So how can our audience, community members, support Rebuilding Together San Francisco? They can now, it sounds like they can volunteer, donate, sponsor.
Absolutely. Thanks for asking that question. They can go onto our website, www.rebuildingtogethersf.org. We are accepting volunteers, skilled and unskilled. So even if you've never even hammered something in your own home, you're welcome to volunteer with us. Companies can sponsor events or host a team building activity with our organization. We offer that year round. People in the local community can donate. Obviously, dollars and financial contributions go a long way. And follow us on social media. We have a Facebook account. Our social media handles are listed on our website, and they can continue to support us in that way and get the word out. But I highly suggest volunteering. I highly suggest donating to our organization. And if there are companies out there looking for a great outdoor team building activity, we have sponsor packages for team building activities for local companies as well.
Thank you. And would you please share with the audience one of your favorite moments of working at Rebuilding Together San Francisco?
Yes. I have a very fond memory. It's a little less than a year old. Rebuilding Together San Francisco had the opportunity to partner with 5 Keys, which is an organization out of San Francisco. And our volunteers renovated 6 apartments on Treasure Island that were prepared for formerly incarcerated women that have served 20 years plus coming out of prison. And we prepared 6 apartment units with construction upgrades and safety upgrades for the women. And that's my favorite story by far, just because the impact of our work that had on the women coming to a clean, ready space that they could restart their lives and be a support to the community really resonated with me. Because when you come out of prison, you come from a cell and you don't realize the big difference until you come out. So to play a part for women to go from prison to a nice apartment was a really special moment for me. And that's definitely something I'll never forget. And Treasure Island is beautiful, of course, but the units match that beauty out there. And the women were so happy. A woman named Rosie in particular, so elated, so happy, ready to restart her life. And I know that our work and that unit being prepared will support her in her journey for the rest of her life.
Thank you. It's a great story. And once again, it all comes back down to housing first.
Absolutely.
So final question, what would you say were some of the positive things that could come out of the pandemic to support the increase in housing and wraparound services for our seniors and neighbors with disabilities?
Well, so much has come out of it. I think much more kind of revealing. I think the positive things that can come out of it is I think San Francisco and a society as a whole will focus and hone in more on our seniors and our disabled populations. Now more than ever, there's competing narratives out there around if people have left San Francisco or are they actually staying. The point in saying that is the people that are there, we need to make sure they can stay. And our work makes sure that they can stay. And I think San Francisco is committed to having those folks stay. And I think most importantly, I think we all realize from the pandemic, we all belong, we all matter. And human connection is very important and we all have to look out for each other. So I hope harmony continues. I hope togetherness continues. And our organization definitely wants to play a role in that moving forward.
Thank you. All really great points. I think we also realize what we took for advantage, right? That was just always going to be there that wasn't there.
Right. Absolutely.
Thank you, Mahogany, for sharing Rebuilding Together San Francisco's work today. We'll make sure that listeners have your contact information, website, and social media so they can follow Rebuilding Together San Francisco and get engaged in your work to help our seniors and our neighbors with disabilities. Please stay safe and healthy as we all work our way through this very strange new pseudo-normalcy.
Yes, our new normal. Thank you so much. It was such a pleasure to be on here. I invite everyone to visit our website, and those interested, please complete an application. We would love to help. That's why we're here.
That's it for this episode of Voices of the Community. You've been listening to the voice of the Executive Director of Rebuilding Together San Francisco, Mahogany Roland. To find out more about Rebuilding Together San Francisco's programs, to donate, and to volunteer, please go to rebuildingtogethersf.org. We really want to hear from you in our short listener survey, so please go to georgecoster.com and click on the survey button on the upper right-hand side of the homepage and provide us your feedback and insights. Please tune in to KSFP 102.5 FM to next week's show on August 12th at 8:30 a.m., where we share the voices from St. Anthony's about their extensive wraparound support programs to help bring stability to our unhoused and low-income community members. We hope that you enjoyed the insights, points of view, and personal stories from the voices of changemakers and their nonprofits and small businesses featured in this series. To find out more and get engaged with the nonprofits, small businesses, and staff members featured in the series, please go to my website, georgecoster.com, and click on Voices of the Community to find links to the extended versions of these interviews and to listen to the entire series. After listening to these stories, we hope that you will consider making a donation and volunteering to provide a hand up to your fellow community members. I want to thank my associate producer, Eric Estrada, and Casey Nance at Citron Studios, along with the wonderful crew at the San Francisco Public Press and KSFP. Voices of the Community is a member of Intersection for the Arts, which allows us to offer you a tax deduction for your contributions. Please go to georgecoster.com and click on the donate link to make a donation to help us provide future shows just like this one. While you're on our website, you can enjoy our archived past shows, which feature community voices working on solutions to critical issues facing Northern California communities, And you can sign up for our newsletter to find out more about future shows, as well as shows and events from the organizations that are included in our episodes. Take us along on your next COVID walk by subscribing to Voices of the Community on Apple Podcast, Spotify, and Google Podcast, or wherever you get your podcast. You can follow us on Twitter at George Coster, and we'd love to hear from you with feedback and show ideas, so send us an email to george@georgecoster.com. I'm George Coster in San Francisco, and thank you for listening.